Hello everyone. This is the game 8 from the Steinitz versus Chigorin match, which was played in Havanna in 1889. So Steinitz was down a point coming into this game, and he needed a win with white pieces. So he started with knight f3. After knight f6, d4, d5, and c4, e6. This is very standard. Knight c3 and c6. So going for the semi-Slav from Chigorin. I don't think that this type of play suited Chigorin though, and let's see what happened in this game. So e3, very solid move. Bishop d6, bishop d3, both sides developing normally. Knight b d7. Now castles, and now e4 from Steinitz. A very interesting break. And this is of course the main line. After d takes c4, knight takes c4, knight takes c4, and bishop takes e4. So far so good. h6 and bishop c2. So both sides have played very well here. I mean, of course white has advantage, but you know, black isn't too much worse. But of course the bishop on c8 is awaiting a diagonal to be placed on. So here, okay, rook e8 is what Chigorin played and ended up in a miserable position. The other moves have been tried before. For example, f5 was played by Lasker a few years later but lost. So later on, e5 has been discovered that it's a best move here. But okay, Chigorin played rook e8, and now rook e1. Now the e5 break is impossible because there are some pins there, and so Chigorin should think of something else here. So queen f6. Yeah, getting queen out early, but you know, I think it was better to just play b6 and just get the bishop on that diagonal. But you know, it's very easy for me to say anything here because you know, I wasn't the one playing, so it's very easy to criticize the players. But okay, Steinitz has a solid advantage here. He has a center, he has better development, and well, let's see what happens. Bishop to d2. Steinitz's idea is very interesting because after knight f8 to get the bishop to d7 from Chigorin, Steinitz plays bishop to c3. Now, this is very interesting, finding a discovery. Now here, I think Chigorin goes completely mad. He played bishop d7, allowing d5. Now, d5 now is not possible. This is what he thought, that if d5 now, then e5 locks the position. And now I think that black is fine, because he sorted out most of his problems. But actually, after bishop d7, Chigorin missed that Steinitz could play c5 first, dislodging the bishop, and you can't be playing this move and feeling comfortable, and then d5 now. So instead, previously, I think moving the queen out of this pin was much better. So d5 from Steinitz. Now, while the queen is attacked, queen has to move, and now d6. So in the previous variation, d6 wasn't possible because there was a bishop standing there. But now the bishop is not there, so now the pawn can occupy that square. b6. I mean, there is nothing else to do. Chigorin needs a counterattack. And b4. Steinitz is hanging on to his pawns, but this is... I don't think this is a good idea. In general, not just in this game. Here Steinitz could have won with knight e5, because this is crushing. Because if b takes c5, then queen h5, this attack is just too strong, because there's no communication among black's pieces, and one of those bishops will sack itself. This is completely winning. But instead, after knight e5, this is what Steinitz was worried about. After f6, Steinitz would have to move his knight and then lose that pawn. But here, I mean, we just need a little bit of calculation that any sacrifice on any of those h and f pawns wins the game. But okay, Steinitz played after b6, b4. f6. Now Chigorin stops that knight e5 jump. And now Steinitz plays queen d3, just threatening, threatening nothing really, but developing a queen. a5. Now Chigorin starts his own counterattack. a3, defending, and now e5, great move. Great move, but you get something, you give something. That diagonal is now very, very weak. That the light square diagonal. So knight h4, just because the knight has no prospects on f3, those pawns are blocking him, so he just wants to eliminate that defensive knight. But after b takes c5, bishop a7, and suddenly, this is very, very tough. Steinitz finally decides to ditch the pawn anyway, and he should have done it earlier, and he would have a brilliant attack. Now he has to ditch the pawn under worse circumstances. It's weird that when you let your opponent off the hook, they start playing perfectly all of a sudden. Chigorin has been playing perfectly after that b4 from Steinitz. I guess he got some confidence. After rook a d1, bishop takes c5. So Chigorin is up a pawn now. Queen c4 check, but this doesn't win a piece, of course, because of knight e6. And now queen e4, going for mate. Now knight f8, defending, a bit passive, I think. But what else is there after queen e4? Probably knight g6, knight g5 would have been an option, but I think that knight f8 is much better. Knight f8, queen c4 check, knight e6, and now Chigorin is saying, hey, if you want to draw, I'm here. So, Steinitz doesn't want to draw. He was winning some time ago. So bishop g6, so attacking the rook. Now this is very interesting. Now it seems that, well, if the rook moves, then, well, looks very, very dangerous, because then the knight will hop on f5 and things will get really nasty. So Chigorin counterattacks. He attacks the f2 pawn. So he's temporarily giving up the rook, but of course he will regain it and move later, threatening bishop takes f2. Now rook e2 was played by Steinitz. Now from a position in which Steinitz was winning, he's now, fighting for equality. Not practically, but objectively that's the case, because he's a pawn down, and if his attack doesn't succeed, he's really worse, because the a3 pawn is also very weak. And here, Chigorin just hallucinated, I think. For a player of his caliber and his style, to save an exchange here and not worrying about the diagonal is just, very, very remarkable. It wasn't a blunder. He just thought that, okay, I'll save a rook and get the b file. But actually, if he had played queen b5 here, just stopping any problems from that diagonal, he would have had a better position and he would have probably won. Because, if you exchange queens, then that a3 pawn will fall and those two connected passed pawns will win the game. So queen e4 would have been played, and then just queen b3, solidifying that diagonal. And even if bishop takes that rook, there's not much that Steinitz could do, because the a3 pawn would fall, and and that passed pawn protected by a bishop and a rook would be very hard to stop. But Chigorin played rook e to b8 here, and Steinitz is now back in the game. Rook b2, attacking, and now this is the move that Chigorin probably missed. Bishop f5. He should have just let the bishop take the rook there, because this bishop is a monster and much better than the useless rook that Chigorin has on b8. And now here, this bishop wins the game. and the pin on that knight. King f7 is played, but now rook e2, a brilliant idea. The idea here is that, for example, if Chigorin waits, what happens then? Then bishop takes c5, and after f takes c5, rook takes c5, and this pin is just becoming serious now, because now, I mean, Chigorin loses a pawn. I mean, a piece, because queen takes e5 isn't possible, because just removing the defender with a check. So rook e2 was a brilliant idea. Chigorin now trying to somehow survive with queen a6, but exchange of queens is now too late. Queen g4, because now when all the pieces are on the queen side, all the black pieces are on the queen side, white simply just breaks through. From here on, Steinitz plays a beautiful attack. Knight f4, a good, well, not a good move, but what was there anyway? Because Chigorin is trying to counterattack, and then here comes the shocker from Steinitz. But you know, when you have an advantage, when you have all pieces in the game, you generally have to be aware of this type of sacrifices. I think it was in one of the matches between Kasparov and Karpov that Kasparov said, "I have so many pieces into attack, and Karpov is defending with only 2 pieces, so I didn't even calculate anything. I just sacrificed a piece, and I was sure I was winning." So here, just rook takes e5, a brilliant move, but you know, a move that works because Chigorin played badly. Badly with the rook b8. Of course, if he had exchanged the queens, this wouldn't have happened. So f takes e5, and now bishop takes e5. And we can calculate a lot of variations here. We can say, oh, now black can play this, but white can play that. But it is obvious here, optically, that white is crashing through. He has a passed pawn that paralyzes the bishop on c5. He has an useless rook on a8. He has useless queen on a8. He has useless rook on b8. And there's just one bishop defending it. And okay, there is a knight as well, but that knight can be quickly eliminated if something. So now g5, trying to defend, but after bishop g6, queen takes d7. Okay, queen comes to game somehow, but just queen f5 and d7. This passed pawn is just too huge. So here Chigorin resigned. Now, Chigorin had his chance here, but I think it would be probably unfair if Steinitz lost this game, because he played very well up to some point. But Chigorin had his chance to win the game as well. He had a very, very promising position after queen b5. This idea. After rook e2, Chigorin could have played queen b5, asking Steinitz to exchange queens and then just queen his a pawn. It's easier said than done, but only black would be pushing there. So this was the final position of the game. Chigorin resigned, and Steinitz played a brilliant opening. He was completely winning, and I think he was awarded the brilliancy prize, but at some point Steinitz made some very bad errors, there wouldn't be any brilliancy if there were no errors, right? But yeah, now Steinitz equalized the match. Now it's 4-4 after game 8. Thank you.